I'd like to call the governing board meeting for the Liberty Elementary School District to order today, Monday, September 25th, 2023, at the Jerry Roby District Facility. We have all 5 board members present. One is present electronically, that's Mr. Parks. We also have Mr. Aguirre, Board Member Bixler, Board Member Kenyon, and myself, Michael Todd. Our next item on the agenda is 1.2, Pledge of Allegiance, and tonight we have several special guests in the audience. I've asked that Amir Guidado and Keely Falstrom please come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is item 1.3, approve the regular agenda.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the regular agenda form consistent with board policy BEDB and temporarily suspend governing board policy with which this agenda may be inconsistent.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. I call your name. Please specify your vote. Board Member Parks.
Aye.
Board Member Aguirre.
Yes.
Board Member.
Okay.
Board Member Bixler. Sorry.
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon.
Yes.
I'm also an aye. We show that I approve 5 yes, 0 no. Next will be item 1.4, Governing Board and Superintendent recognitions. Dr. Monroe.
So we are really excited for all the wonderful families that are here tonight. We, just so everyone is aware, we are starting the school year recognizing our wonderful students. It's the reason why we're all here. And so I'm going to ask the governing board to come up to the front here and turn the time back over to President Todd to do that at this time. There will be a short recess that President Todd will give us after the recognition. So families, you're welcome to stay for the meeting if you'd like, or you're welcome to leave, but I'll turn it back over to President Todd.
Thank you for everybody that came tonight. We have wanted to take some time to recognize our special students and our staff. Tonight's meeting will be we're students, and then we're going to start recognizing our staff at opposing meetings. So every month we'll be doing this, and it means a lot. The Liberty School District has asked that each campus present us with a student of the month based off of their citizenry, how hard they're trying in school, how they do, how they're being, and those model students that represent what we want everybody in our district to be. So I'm very honored to recognize the following students tonight, and we'll just go in order here on the list. Our first student from Blue Horizons is Danica Lafata. Okay, we have 2 this month from Estrella Mountain. John Abasov. Okay, and our second one will be Mavi Robinson. Okay, from Freedom Elementary, Ethan Stevens. From Las Brisas Academy, Sadie Hopper. From Liberty Elementary, Millie DeVault. From Rainbow Valley, Juliana Flores. And our final one for tonight from West Star Elementary, Lily Smith. Once again, you're looking at some of our proudest students. We recognize every student in this district, and they all are very special to the board, to our staff, to our citizens. But this month, we just wanted to recognize you for doing great jobs. And please keep it up and encourage others to do the same. We look forward to a lot more students coming forward, and we thank you for what you do for your school and making Liberty a great place to be. So,
So we're gonna line up. So let's have the students line up here, and the board will be in back. And this is a great time, Mom and Dad, Grandma and Grandpa, to get a picture. We'll also get a picture that'll be up on social media, and then we'll take the recess right after this. So come on, scoot on back, guys.
Ready, 1, 2, and 3.
It's working. Let's turn your words.
Everybody hold up their awards. So hold them up the right way. Everybody look at the little camera.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, that hurts horrible.
Kind of look in the middle somewhere. All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll show that we're back in session at 5:42. Our IT equipment is reshuffled now for the rest of the meeting, so we're ready to go. We'll move on to item 2.1, Westar student presentation by Dr. Court Monroe.
Excuse me, President Todd, members of the board, I'd like to invite up two of our stellar students. So Amir Guidado, and Keely Falstrom, if you can come up to the microphone. These are two of our fantastic students from Westar. They're part of the multi-age gifted program. Their teacher is Mrs. Crowley and their principal is Mr. Bogart up there at Westar. And they have recently participated in a program from the Arizona State Bar called Kids Vote at the end of August. So a group of teachers was able to bring students to this program to show the students how state government works, how to be involved, and also to meet our Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes. So Amir and Keely have a very short presentation to present to the board. I'm very proud of these students for all the extra efforts that they're doing and really proud of their courage and their confidence to stand in front of the board tonight. So Amir and Keely, it's all yours.
Hello, I'm Keely, and this is Amir, and we are 6th and 7th grade students in the MAG class.
Kids Voting was a program Miss Crowley asked us to join because she helps us seek real-world experiences.
Arizona Bar Association sponsors this to help promote opportunities for junior high students to learn about voting in our government.
Because of our MAG program, we get to experience leadership in big ways.
This is not working. Where is the thing? Where is the thing?
We'll get somebody to help you out.
Our first meeting, Secretary of the State, Adrian Fontes, gave us a chance to learn about his office.
Secretary Fontes was so impressed, he named me assistant secretary for the day. He taught me ideas that are different than our own, help us to understand different perspectives.
At our first council meeting, we listened to students give speeches and voted for chair, vice chair, secretary. They will run the rest of our 7 meetings.
Miss Crowley allowed us to see that Arizona history of democracy is still conducted the same way today.
At our next in-person meeting, we will visit the Maricopa County Tabulation and Election Center. We will get to see how votes are counted.
We promise to be Liberty District's curious, confident problem solvers and represent our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members. Do you have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Excellent job, and I hope you guys learned a lot. And you guys represented Liberty awesome. So thank you guys so much for all that you guys do. Keep it up.
I also would like to make just a quick comment. The Secretary of State that we have is just a wonderful human being, so I'm glad that you had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Fontes about what the job is like. Amir, what do you think? Public service?
Oh, yeah. It was a great experience talking to him, and I didn't really have any responsibilities, but it was pretty fun being named that for the day.
But when you start walking around with your petition to get names on to get on the ballot, drop by my place.
Great job. I can't think of 2 better students to represent our district, and it's amazing that Liberty has students at your age that get to go walk the Capitol, meet elected officials, and represent everybody. So remember, when you go, you're not just representing Miss Crowley's class, but you're representing the entire district. And our district is more than just the teachers and students, but it's also all the voters out there. So you're representing thousands of people when you go on behalf of our school. So thank you for doing such a great job. Okay, next item on the agenda is item 2.2, attendance, enrollments reports, and school newsletters. Dr. Monroe.
Yeah, President Todd, members of the board, attached our school newsletters for the board to review. Also, some of our attendance and enrollment data. You'll notice on the agenda I put a nice little nugget that we've found on with regards to our enrollment being down. Last year we promoted quite a large 8th grade class, I was told, about 541 students. But we've only enrolled about 386 kindergartners, so that's a difference of about 150 kids or more. And our enrollment is down a little bit, and I think that adds some perspective into. We're certain our principals are working to give tours, and we're working to capture all the kids that move into our area. But with all things being equal, we graduated a very large group, and then we brought in a group that was a little smaller than that group. And so that kind of gives some context to some of our enrollment being down a little bit this year. But we can answer any questions the board might have, and there's also newsletters and events there for the board to be able to check out from each school.
Members, any questions?
Yes, Dr. Monroe, I have seen a number of places that I wouldn't expect it, like movie theaters, where a lot of our neighboring districts are running ads for enrollment. Have we considered that?
We have considered the movie theaters. It's a little costly. It's a little expensive to do. However, one thing you also have to keep in mind is if the movie theaters are within our boundaries, you get a little more bang for the buck. And so depending on where that theater is, their local public school may not be a Liberty school, but charter schools certainly do a good job of that. And that's something we can definitely, especially as our community grows and Goodyear and Buckeye make announcements on businesses, I think that's a good outreach idea. So it's something we'll look at, but we haven't in the immediate because we just don't, to my knowledge, we don't have a movie theater within our boundaries.
Any more questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to item 2.3, transportation presentation. Ms. Dondi Gates, our transportation supervisor.
So while Dondi is walking up, come on up, Dondi, but President Todd, members of the board, and really appreciate Dondi. Our transportation fleet is second to none. And I'm really glad that Dondi is here to present. It can be a difficult thing to stand up and present to the governing board, but Dondi's got a good presentation to talk about how proud she is of her staff. And I'm not going to steal her thunder, but I want you to say that I want the board to know that I'm really proud of our transportation department, the leadership, the service that we provide to our kids. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dondi, but I think it's about a third of our students take transportation on the bus every day. And so our drivers have kind of a magical touch each day on our students. And so, and I know the board appreciates transportation. So without further ado, Dondi, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, Ms. President and fellow board members. Our theme this year is we're actually building a hero, and we started off our year as dressed up as superheroes on our first day of school. So, most drivers, they don't get involved with their kids. Our staff does. We do make sure that they dress up with students when they dress up for school, when they dress up, any dress up day. Usually their drivers dress up with them. So, okay. Oh, I need her to help me click it. Okay. One thing that I did actually get a lot of feedback is when the board came over to our office. It's my understanding that has never happened before. So the drivers were very impressed with that, and they wanted to thank you guys again for that. I have made some calls with all of our fellow area, all the Buckeye schools, Saddle Mountain, Litchfield. I can honestly say we are the only transportation department that is 100% fully staffed with drivers and monitors. So that is very much something to celebrate. Last year, at the end of the year, Liberty joined in the school bus rodeo for the state. It was the first time that we went in, and I had 2 drivers go. One got the highest points, and he got high points for the West Valley. So he is now working on building a bigger and better course to practice in, and we're going to try to send some more people this year.
Don, do you want to give a quick description for everyone in here what happens at the rodeo? I'm sure they can.
A school bus rodeo is you take a school bus down. They set up cones, they set up poles, very narrow, and you have to maneuver your way through them without knocking anything over and hitting. And the highest points wins, and they win trophies. And then the winner of the state rodeo, they send them on to national rodeo. So, and it's a competition between all the school districts in Arizona. So.
Before you move on, does our representative need a support to get to the national competition?
If they were to make it to national, some of the money they win at the state rodeo goes to the national. So I think the state helps them pay for that.
So it may not need help from us?
not.
Okay.
We'll know if we actually win it. That's one of our main goals this year. We know we've talked about in the past all the cameras being installed in the buses. Almost everything is installed, and we only have a few more left, and those are coming very soon. Our goals are the transportation facility. We know we're working on that, and fuels. That is our number one goal, is getting our fuel tanks new and up to date. Some of our data that we have here, like we talked about the numbers that we transport. Right now we're transporting 1,688 students. That's general ed students and special ed. The amount of miles that we travel a year is 314,907 miles. We have our big thing is 2 bus evacs. They start next week. Everybody and every student in our school district will go through a bus evac twice a year. We have our new routing program that we just got up and running. It has taken us several months of hard learning between the office staff members, but it is actually up and running. It is making us more efficient. We are able to route the buses around neighborhoods better. We're more on time. We're just efficient all the way around. The Tyler Drive tablets that were installed in the buses, they have the GPS location on the buses, so anytime, even if a bus driver can't get a hold of us, I can see where they're at. If something's wrong, it notifies us right away. It notifies us if there's an accident in a bus before the driver even has to notify us. Summer Transportation Conference. All the trainers and the admin staff, we went to Flagstaff, and we actually got to witness a mock school bus accident. Something new that they've never done that before. It was all about evacuations and reunification of students with their parents after a major accident like this. It was several hours long just doing this. They talked a lot about bringing that back to our department. Obviously, we can't flip over a bus and practice that, so the closest we could get to that is we did our own bus evacuation with our staff. We teach it every day, but has any of our drivers actually ever had to do it? Usually not. So we didn't tell them. And we took them we were just going for a ride, and we put fake smoke in the bus and pretended like we had a fire. I only had 2 drivers panic. Everybody else got out safely. But it was something very different for them to experience. We teach our students that we have to unload a bus in 2 minutes or less because a bus is completely engulfed within 3. This driver did it in 1 minute and 47 seconds. So she did very well with it. And our next step, we're going to continue our training. We have training this Thursday. We try to do once a month, a couple hours a month, whether we're in a bus or we're in a classroom, just to keep up on all the new stuff that comes in and out. Any questions?
And one more thing, Dondi was nice enough to bring one of our newer school buses, so I know some people outside might have been going in and out. If you want to check it out, it'll be here a little longer, but it's parked just out here, Dondi?
Right out the back door.
Right out the back door.
Questions, board members?
Yeah.
Board member Bixler.
Governor Todd, just quickly. In the past, I tried to get a CDL and had cataract surgery instead. Nonetheless, it was pretty much on my dime that I was getting it. Do we support drivers to get their CDLs here?
We do. We pay for all their training because we do their training here in office.
Okay.
So we usually have them bus aid while they're in the training, so they're getting familiar with it. The only thing they pay for themselves is their actual test because that's theirs. They keep it with them,
Right.
which is very reasonable. I think it's only like $55.
Oh, good.
But all
Thank
their
you.
training, we do that and we pay them for that.
Yeah, I had to go somewhere else to get the training, so good. I'm glad we can do it in-house. That's great.
Any other questions? Board member Parks, are you still hearing us okay if you have questions? None?
We're good.
Okay.
I have a
Board Member Kenyon.
First question is the rodeo sounds awesome. When does that come around again?
It's in March. I think it's the 2nd or 3rd, March 11th,
Okay.
that weekend. We are going to do our practice one here in February, so we can pick our 2 winners and send them. And I'll make sure you guys know.
Sounds like
when that
fun.
is.
I would love to watch that.
And put you in a bus and let you practice.
Hey, perfect. I have my CDL. We'll see how that goes. I might fail it. Just from perspective, while you were these numbers that you're stating, especially about the amount of miles we travel in a year, just for public perspective, I did a quick search while you were speaking. 24,900 miles roughly around the Earth. So you can travel more than 12 and a half times around the Earth is what our district does. That's how widespread we are. So looking at that, looking at everything that you've done and the transportation department has done, it's just amazing. And we're so thrilled that we have such a great transportation department. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I'll keep you up here just a minute longer because you're starting to get comfortable now. So, Dr. Miller just gave me $5 under the table to keep you here. No, I just want to say thank you for letting us come over. It was great that all the bus drivers came when we brought donuts over. We want to do a little for you, but really and truly, what meant more to us is all the bus drivers were there, and we were able to communicate with them and learn. And your presentation tonight, I don't think we've had a transportation presentation in probably as long as the board brought donuts to you. So it's been forever. So thank you for that. I know it's uncomfortable sometimes being here, but we'll make it routine. We'll invite you back several more times, and you're not smiling about that. But, there we go. But no, thank you, and please tell your bus drivers we appreciate everything they do. We know long before people are getting here at school, the bus drivers are out here, and I've had the unfortunate pleasure sometimes of heading to the airport early in the morning, and you drive by and you see the buses, and when it's cold, you really see them. But we appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is 2.4, update on capital improvements financed through bonds and district additional assistance for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Those are some tough acts to follow, so mine won't be quite as exciting. I don't have pictures. I just have numbers for you. So sorry to bore you this evening. So, good evening, Mr. President, governing board members, and Dr. Monroe. Pursuant to ARS 15491K, school districts that issue bonds are required to hold a public meeting each year between September 1st and October 31st, at which time an update on the bond spending is provided. This is an annual requirement until the bond proceeds are spent. In addition to bond spending, the district also uses this time to provide an update to the other funds the district utilizes for capital projects. In the next few slides, you will see a summary review of the capital funds we utilized in fiscal year 2022-2023. Unrestricted capital outlay, or district additional assistance, as you might hear it, is the capital provided by the state and where the typical day-to-day capital monies are spent. Adjacent ways, we all know, is local funding that is used for improvement of public ways adjacent to school property. And bond building are monies that are restricted to the voter-approved purpose or purposes. A bond is a debt investment in which an investor loans money to an entity which borrows the funds for a defined period of time at a variable or fixed rate. Gifts and donations for capital purposes is Fund 650. In reviewing Liberty's history, the last expenditure was in fiscal year 2019 in the amount of $6,150. This was for Synergy. This was the remaining amount from a small donation received in fiscal year 2006 and from the Meritage donation received in fiscal year 2007. Fund 686 is for emergency deficiencies correction for projects funded by School Facilities Board or a division to correct emergency deficiencies. Liberty applied for this grant and received funds for the district office remediation project in fiscal year 2019 in the amount of $287,739. Most familiar to us is Fund 691, which is Building Renewal Grant. These funds are awarded by the Arizona Department of Administration School Facilities Division to be used for the purpose of maintaining the minimum adequacy of existing school facilities. Throughout fiscal year 23, the biggest need was for HVAC replacements at our campuses. New school facilities accounts for monies received from the Arizona Department of Administration, School Facilities Division for the use in constructing new school facilities and purchasing land for new school sites. As you recall, Liberty was approved for just a little over $23 million for school number 8 on December 15th, 2022. We have not received those funds yet. Making sure. Unrestricted capital revenues are attributed to property taxes, interest, state equalization, and additional state aid. The expenditures of a little more than $2.7 million will be detailed in upcoming slides. In adjacent ways, we received $975,000 from property taxes, as well as $3,915 of interest. The $5,300 in expenditures is for the topographic survey and engineering design for Liberty School Road to Hess Roundtree. Bond building monies received from our bond sale in October 2022 of $9.3 million. The expenditures of $4.3, almost $4.4 million will be shown in upcoming slides. Capital gifts and donations, as mentioned earlier, the last expenditure was in fiscal year 2019 in the amount of a little more than $6,000. We did not receive any funds nor had any expenditures in fiscal year 23. Emergency deficiency corrections, again, the last application for fiscal year 2019 for the district office remediation project. And we have not had a need to request for any emergency deficiencies from the school facilities division, which is a great thing. Building renewal grants, we have been reimbursed for 3 projects. However, we have expenditures for 6 projects on our books. I am working on getting reimbursements for the other 3 projects. New school facilities, the ending fund balance is negative interest due to starting the year with negative funds, subsequently receiving the funds in September of 2022. This slide is for capital expenses for projects specifically categorized for the instruction fund or the direct instruction to our students. This slide is for capital expenses for projects specifically categorized for the support services function, which includes student support, instructional support, maintenance, and transportation, as well as the administration function, general administration, school administration, and fiscal services. You will notice a negative budget balance of $5,388 in the total line item for support services. This is not a bad thing, but it is also not good. As long as the district did not overspend the total allocation for unrestricted capital, the negative budget balance is okay. You will see the grand total with a positive budget balance shortly. This is simply an indication to me that I need to do a better job at setting the budget for the different functions. We did not overspend unrestricted capital outlay. This slide is for capital expenses for projects specifically categorized for the facilities acquisition and construction services and debt services function. Again, you'll notice the negative budget balance in the total line item for debt services. Again, I need to do a better job at allocating the budgets. This slide is representative of the various categories we have in the unrestricted capital outlay portion for land, furniture, equipment, vehicles.
Spixler, or I'm sorry, Ms. Strictly, Beth, just real curious, could you reiterate what you mean about doing a better job of budgeting?
Yeah.
So in other words, what I'm hearing you say is that you're guessing in your buckets.
Correct.
And that you're guessing you're going to take this much, put it in this bucket, this bucket, this bucket, and sometimes we're over on this bucket, sometimes we're under on this bucket, is what you're saying.
Correct, but it should be an educated guess. And so this being the first year, I was a little uneducated. I should have done a better job. And therefore, going forward in fiscal year 24, I will do a better job to making sure that what I anticipate for expenses, we have the budget for in specific line items. Overall, we have the budget capacity. It was just those specific line items that the budget capacity was not there.
Okay, thank you.
Before you move away from that, just real quickly, movement within those budget items is allowable, right? I mean, as long as it's within the same major topic area, you can move monies within there without any problem.
Correct, as long as it's in the major topic of unrestricted capital outlay, district additional assistance, Fund 610, We have a budget of whatever it is, $3 million, and as long as we don't go over that budget, don't spend over it, we're okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for those questions. I appreciate it. This slide is representative of the various categories, as I said, we have in the unrestricted capital outlay portion for land, furniture, equipment, vehicles, and technology. And this final slide for unrestricted capital provides the full picture. The expenditures of just under $2.8 million is the same total you saw on slide 4. As you can see, we have not overspent the budget for unrestricted capital outlay fund. As a matter of fact, we have an estimated budget balance carry forward of approximately $474,000. This carry forward will be beneficial for us for projects we are working on this fiscal year. This is a summary of the expenses by school and district-wide. Again, the total expenses of just shy of $2.8 million matches the previous slide and slide 4. I'll give you a minute to look over these numbers. Now for the bond expenses. As you recall, in 2019, the community approved the sale of $49.8 million in bonds for both non-administrative and administrative purposes. The non-administrative purpose was for pupil transportation vehicles and for constructing, remodeling, renovating, and improving school facilities. The administrative purpose was for the transportation facility. Purchase professional services in the amount of $27,832 was for low voltage cabling for the security cameras. The expenses for purchase property services was for repair and maintenance services, also for security items. The bulk of our expenses have been in facilities acquisition and construction services. Some of those expenses are final construction for the classroom addition at Las Brisas in the amount of just shy of $1.7 million, gym flooring at Estrella Mountain and Rainbow Valley, renovations at Rainbow Valley Concrete and Turf, polished concrete and carpet tile replacement at Freedom, and carpet tile replacement at West Star, along with a few other deferred maintenance projects. Debt services is for the expenses incurred for the bond sale in October of 2022. These are the expenses for furniture, equipment, vehicles, and technology items, as well as expenses for security safety upgrades, such as card access to buildings and additional security cameras throughout the district. The expense for vehicles is for 4 buses. And this final slide for bond building provides the full picture. The grand total on this page is the same total on slide 4, expenditures of $4,388,314. The budget balance includes the $7 million we had allocated for school number 8 from the additional funding SFD paid us for Blue Horizons, and the $6.9 million allocated for the transportation facility. However, the board was gracious and gave administration the authority to use the $7 million for projects identified to us by the Gordon Group as backlog or priority projects. Administration continues to work on the identified projects with plans to bring our priority list back to the board for your approval. This slide is a comparison of balances on each approved line item per the authorized voter pamphlet and the approved capital improvement plan. The furniture replacement schedule was determined in September of 2020. In the fall of 2022, Estrella Mountain received replacement furniture. Installation was completed in June of 2023. In the fall of 2023, Rainbow Valley is scheduled for furniture replacement. In the summer of 2025, or depending on the time of the year for the work to finish, either fiscal year 2025 or 2026, furniture replacement is scheduled for Freedom Elementary. We will start the replacement schedule over beginning with fiscal year 2026. There is a $150,000 contingency each year to assist with any overages because prices continue to increase. For transportation, we have the following schedule. In fiscal year 23, we were scheduled to replace 1 special education bus and 1 van. As mentioned earlier, due to the needs, the vehicles purchased were a little different. We ended with 4 buses, as 2 were scheduled for fiscal year '22 that took longer than expected to receive, and 1 bus was an emergency replacement for another bus. For fiscal year '24, we are scheduled to replace 1 regular education and 1 special education bus. 1 van is scheduled to be replaced in fiscal year 2025, 1 regular education bus and 1 van in fiscal year 2026. In fiscal year 2027, 1 regular education bus and 1 van. And in fiscal years 2028 and 2029, we are scheduled each year to replace 1 regular education bus and 1 van. We have a lot of buy-in to do. This is the replacement schedules for technology and deferred maintenance projects. The projects were not defined, just the amounts for each year. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Members, any questions?
I have one, if you don't mind.
Mr. Parks, please go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Ricker, thank you for the.
Hang on, we're having some audio problems. We can't hear you very well.
You can't.
There you are.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. It was very informative. You'd mentioned we haven't received the funds for building the school 8 yet. Do we have an idea, 1, when that will be? Number 2, is there a expiration date on those funds? Meaning, do we have to use them at a certain point?
To answer your first question, I do not know specifically when we will be receiving those funds. I do not know specifically when we will be receiving those funds. It will be sometime this fiscal year. And I do believe it will more depend on when we tell them we've got everything in line and we're ready to go.
Okay. All right.
But
Thank you very
specific
much.
dates, unfortunately, I can't give you at this time.
I understand. Thank you.
You got a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So I've talked to, I know we're going out for a bond, and you mentioned bond sales and different things that we've had to spend and getting ready for. I don't know if you're the right person to ask this, but I've talked to a few constituents who have asked me, is there a way private citizens, constituents within our district, are able to bid on the bonds? And I don't know if that's what was brought to me, so I'm bringing it to you. I don't know if you know how that operates, how that works.
I don't know specifically how that operates, but to buy bonds, they would need to contact a financial advisor that deals with bonds. And there are specific ones out there.
Because I was told that, and I'm completely new to the bond thing, right? When it comes to private citizen constituents getting into bonds, that they're pretty limited. I know we do have constituents out here who do want to participate. They want to support the district and purchase bonds for the district, but they're hitting roadblocks. So I don't know if we can get some information on that.
Yeah, Board Member Kenyon, Beth and I were just communicating a little bit on that with regards to government obligated bonds. However, they work with their financial advisor. That would be really smart for them to be able to do, because that ability does exist, but it can be a little more tricky. So, because I've been asked the same thing.
Okay.
So I would have them work with their financial advisor, and it's really these government obligated bonds to see how they can purchase into those. Does that sound right, Beth?
Correct. I can also check with our bonding agent, which is Stiefel, to see if they know of corporations or individuals that would be that they would know that would be able to assist somebody.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Hearing none, thank you for your time.
Bet.
Okay, members, and for the public, this section requires by law a special public comment section. So we will go to 2.5, which is a call to the public. It is not our typical, you filled out one of these orange forms. There were some green ones back there. I don't think anybody filled out. However, because this is new, if anybody does want to speak, we'll allow you the time to do that. And you'll have 3 minutes still. Okay. Nobody is jumping up, so I think we will move forward to item 3.1, the governing board update. And we'll start with you, Mr. Board Member Parks.
I don't have anything today, Mr. John.
Okay. Board Member Aguirre.
Nothing.
Board Member Bixler.
Yeah, I'm so glad school is back in session. It's been a busy week, or actually about 4 weeks since we've had the last meeting. So a lot have gone on. Begin with, went to the ASBA Law Conference, which is always great. Yeah, very interesting. A lot of good information there. And it's, all the breakout sessions I found very, very beneficial. So I appreciated the opportunity to go there and did it. It's kind of special for me because it's becoming kind of home, old school week. The last 3 years that I've attended the conference, I've run into students that I had coached. And they are now at a point where they're adults and they're moving into the higher echelon of school districts. And every time I go there, I run into another child that I have the great honor and opportunity to coach who have done that. And you teachers out there know how good it feels when you run into a student and they've done well. And it's just such a good feeling. It makes all the rest of the time worth it. So I love going to the law conference for no other reason than to see old friends and to get new information. The second thing, the Las Brisas Talent Show. Oh my gosh, lots of talent, Las Brisas. It was great. The dancers were wonderful. I don't know why Los Angeles 91 on the shirts they were wearing. Any idea, Ms. Camp, why? Ms. Schaefer's out here, isn't she? I saw her earlier. Is it? Okay. Yeah. And that's something else that was really kind of exciting to watch, was that you didn't need to go to the Taylor Swift concert that was going on. All you had to do was to watch Mrs. Camp. It was great. She was really channeling her inner Taylor Swift. It was pretty exciting. Nonetheless, I have just absolute admiration for the two vocalists that got up and sang. I can think of nothing more terrifying than to do that, to stand up in front of a group of people and sing. And they were incredible. The first singer had such confidence and enthusiasm. It was just a joy to watch this student perform. And the last singer, she closed, well, not quite. She closed the student portion of the show. And it was haunting. It was amazing. There wasn't a sound in the room when she finished. It was incredible. People, keep your eye on her. She's going to go a ways. I also thought that the pianists were amazing. 3 students that played the piano, and their technique is wonderful, and the way that they can move across the keyboards was just incredible. So if you get a chance to go to the talent show again at Las Brisas, I forgot the last thing. We did have a special event. There was a video taping of the teachers. The Las Brisas teachers have talent, and they were good. They were up there dancing and having a great time. I do appreciate Ms. Schaefer and her work in there. I'm a little disappointed she wasn't there to take the bow, but nonetheless, it was great to see those teachers up there performing. It was really, really a lot of fun. After that, Dr. Monroe has started having coffee with the superintendent, and the first one was at West Star, and a number of us were able to attend that, and I really want to thank the parents that came. We had really, really good conversations about the 4-day school week and the upcoming bond issue, and it was great. I highly recommend every parent that they go take advantage of this opportunity. Sit down and have coffee with the superintendent when that turn comes up in that building. It absolutely is worth it. So please go. Plus, a lot of us were there, and we'll listen. We'll hear what you're saying. So please go and be a part of that. And finally, last thing, I was invited to participate in the celebration of Arizona's public schools that occurred last Saturday. This was actually put on by the Arizona List Group, which is also associated with the SOS, the Save Our Schools, the Red for Ed group, and they celebrated public education in the state of Arizona, and it was terrific. The thing that I enjoyed the most was the keynotes. There were 2 keynote speakers. There was Kathy Hoffman, former superintendent, and there was also Chris Mays, who is our current Attorney General. And she spoke eloquently and defended public education, and I can't think of a better advocate for us up there than Attorney General Mays. She I think is really supportive of public education. I appreciate that. I also have to mention, just so you know, she did shout me out. I was one of her teachers. I actually taught her Arizona history and government. And so she did take the opportunity to shout me out while I was there. So that was actually pretty nice. I thought that was special. Nonetheless, it's been fun. It's been busy. I'm looking forward to the next events.
I don't know how to top that. Yeah, a lot going on. I have a few things. I was also at some of these events, the ASBA Law Conference. That was really a lot of fun. Got to meet a lot of other board members, and there was a ton of information there. It was fun having lunch. Got to sit down with a number of different, not only board members, but there was a deputy to the Attorney General. I got to sit down and have a really good conversation with, and just meeting new people, making those relationships was just outstanding, and it was a wonderful time. The coffee with the superintendent, that was wonderful. I echo exactly everything that was just said, because it is a time when the public can come and just sit and talk with the superintendent, ask the difficult questions, ask what's on your heart, ask what's on your mind, ask what's going on in your school, or what's going on in you personally. You don't have to have kids to come and sit down and talk. So if you're in the district, you're a constituent, feel free. Come to these, and they're great events that are put on, and I thank Dr. Monroe for setting these up. These are very, very good. So last thing is just, I've been very busy with the sports. My girls are in sports, and just going around the district, seeing all every campus, just so much school spirit, school pride. It's just amazing to see. So I'm just so thrilled that our sports are up and running this year, and thanks to the voters. So thank you.
Well, I have just a couple repeat things. Again, the school board law conference was great. I found what was probably the most fun this year was a little opportunity for us to smile at others. And walking around with Dr. Monroe at lunch, it was really great to have him walk up to other superintendents who he knew, and they'd come up to him, Court, how are you doing? He'd be, great, how'd you start your year? How many staff members? Oh, because we started with 100%. It was fantastic to see that happen. It really was, it was kind of fun to watch us. We're full. And they all came back and said, yeah, we're really watching you with your 4-day week. It looks like it's going, and we're seeing it, and all eyes are on us. A lot of compliments from other districts complimenting us on kind of taking the leading edge of that. So it was just interesting. I too was at the table with the Deputy Attorney General, very knowledgeable, had some great input on different things that are facing schools, and it's certainly changing as things go on. But it was fantastic. I want to clarify, it was sad to hear that some schools didn't have staffing. It was fantastic to hear that we had it, and to see that teachers kind of think, well, you guys are way out there and you're full, and we're in town and we're not full with staff. It was a kind of a moment of pride that we're there, and when you see surveys that have come out and the numbers of vacancies across the state for teachers, it's incredible. But when you look around and you see how many new people we have in our district, how many people are here because they want to be, and when you fly Southwest Airlines, they always come on and say, we know you have many choices, but you chose us. Same thing for the staff. Teachers can write their ticket anywhere they want to go. Right now, there are openings everywhere except for Liberty, minus one particular spot teacher, but you can go anywhere. And when the staff chooses our district, it tells us that our current staff is fantastic. Our leadership is headed in the right direction. People want to be here, and that says a ton, and should say something for everybody that's a part of this. So congratulations to everybody with that. I got to attend a couple volleyball games, which I wholeheartedly agree. It was fantastic. I made it over to Estrella and Rainbow. The gyms are full. It's been a long time since we've seen gyms full of people. It was loud. It was good competition, good sportsmanship. So we're seeing our coaches teach students win or lose, go out and play hard. And there were a couple lopsided scores I saw, a couple not so lopsided. But really what was lopsided was the effort from both teams. It was far, 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 way up high, really good, and nobody feeling down on themselves. So it was just really good, and I think it brings home what we've missed over the last few years with reduced sports. Thankfully for our override passing, we're able to bring that back. And it means a lot to these students who don't necessarily always get to go other places to play sports because we're farther out. It's fantastic. The talent show, again, I wish you guys could maybe do that once a month because it would give me at least one weekend of something local that I don't have to drive downtown to. But Ms. Graceffa, I think you always play a big part in that, and thank you. It's first class. There's no better way to say it. You probably need to run it like at least 7 nights so everybody can attend because it's good, and just a fantastic night. So appreciate the invite and look forward to there's one next month, I think. So I'm kidding, but she's shaking her head. Yes, maybe we got her on there, but no, it's fantastic. So thank you for that. Our next item will be item 4, call to the public. This is our regular call to the public. We have 2 requests. Our first one will be Suzanne McAvoy. And just a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes. I think you've got a timer there, so.
Hi, my name's Suzanne McAvoy. I'm a teacher, a parent, and a taxpayer in the Liberty School District. I am asking you to pull item 5.3. I just want to make clear, I emailed all of you. I got back from Mr. Aguirre and Ms. Bixler, so I appreciate that you acknowledged it. I didn't plan on talking tonight, but I want to make sure that all the board members did see my email. I want to start with my concerns have nothing to do with Mrs. Crowley as a teacher. She has served this district faithfully for years. This is about the physical responsibility, fairness, and dangerous precedents that we are about to set. For 2 years, Estrella Mountain had a K2 special education teacher, also have a 3rd through 5th special, took over the 3rd through 5th special education class because we could not fill it. She did not get additional salary. She got her normal SPED stipend just as Ms. Crowley received a gifted stipend. She did not receive the extra $35,000 that Ms. Crowley is about to. Intentional or not, in this action, if it is approved, it is evidence that our district values the education of gifted students above the education of our students with disabilities and special needs. I have both, a special ed student and a student that is identified as gifted. It is also physical negligence when you consider that the state gives the district significantly more per pupil funding to meet the needs of special education students. Paying a teacher an extra salary for taking over the class is excessive, which is even more irresponsible when you are considering the extra pay is to teach 8 students. When I looked on the enrollment, it said 17 for the MAG program. Now I've been corrected that now she'll be teaching 25 students, still one of the lowest classes at Westar. We have CHAMPS teachers that teach 40 to 45 kids in a classroom. When you include the kids push in from the special ed self-contained and the gifted classrooms in, they are not receiving any extra funds. In the past, when a teacher has given up their prep and they've taken, like Mr. Doherty last year, took an extra section of ELA for 6th grade, he got 1/10 of his salary for taking over that class. So if a gifted teacher is going to take over ELA and math, you would think for each section that would be 1/10 of her salary. That does not add up to $35,000. So this is very, very concerning. She is now going to make more than some of our principals. So you want to talk about keeping good leadership. When you have teachers that start making more than our principals, you are going to have you're going to lose people. So we need to think about this. And also, I know that she was a character witness for a Title IX complaint against one of our board members. And I sure hope that you are putting kids first and we are not giving personal favors to people, because our kids deserve better, especially when you think about what our special education students have been through in the last 2 years with this district.
Our next speaker will be Erica Lilienthal.
That was intense. Okay, so good evening, everyone. So first, I would like to thank you all for getting the wood chips in place for the Liberty pre-K through 2nd playground. It gives us peace of mind that not only do our students with physical therapy needs, but the other students on campus have a safer playground to enjoy. My preschoolers were very interested in watching the truck, and we were amazed at how much wood chips were on those 2 semis. But all that to say, like, thank you so much. And then, I don't have to worry about falling again and amongst, other people. But also the Liberty Playground would benefit from a shade over the swings because it is hot in the summer months. So we try not to, but we have to refuse our kids to play in the afternoon because it's very hot and the swings are very hot and they want to play on them. So we think that a shade would benefit. And yes, funds is up in the air, but at least, give that some thought, not now, then, look into it for the future. And then when we're looking at housing developments off of Citrus and Lower Buckeye in the Las Brisas area, and then on the north side of Lower Buckeye, as a parent, I want to know, do you guys have a plan in place for when, those families start moving in? How are we going to support those teachers? Are they going to be overloaded with students in the classrooms? And I know you guys built 4 new classrooms over there, but what's your plan for that? Because I would love for my students' teachers not to be overwhelmed. And then amongst that, our preschool program is growing as well. How are we going to support the space for that? The classrooms, we need more teachers. And we do have a sped itinerant, and we kind of need her to cross over to the teacher role because we have lots of students coming in, like our upcoming Child Find Day. The list is full. It's full in the past one, and you guys should have access to that so you can actually see those kiddos coming in. And then not all of them qualify, but still, I project that by winter break, all of our classrooms will be full. And then we also have a wait list for our inclusive program, and we also have more funding coming in because we have the daycare licensing where the families who get those funds to get daycare, they're able to start bringing their kids in, as well as we have quality first approval as well. So that offers scholarships. So it's a lot. And then let's see what else. Thank you, Dr. Monroe, for coming across our preschool classrooms. They actually were gonna peek in, but I told them to come inside the classroom, and they got to see, my classroom and see the flow of it. And although it was calm that, during that time, he was able to see that. And thank you guys.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda will be item 5.1, the approval of the consent agenda. Members, is there anything you would like pulled?
Governor Todd, I'd like to pull item 5.3.
Okay, 5.3 will be pulled.
I'd like to pull item 5.4.
5.4 will be pulled. Okay, anything else? All right, hearing none, I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of 5.3 and 5.4.
Governor Todd, I move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of the items 5.3 and 5.4.
Have a motion to approve with the exception of 5.3 and 5.4. Have a second.
I'll second.
Have a second by Mr. Parks. Okay. So now we'll call for the vote. When I call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Board Member Bixler?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that approved. 5 yes, 0 no. Next will be item 5.3, Board Member Bixler, and when you're done, I have a couple comments as well.
Yes, I just wanted to pull this item for a couple of reasons. The first is that one of the changes that occurs on the list that we have been presented on the personnel items indicates that one of our staff, Sharice Lowe, has attained her master's degree. And I don't remember if we've had other people that have been recognized this way on this document, but I thought it was worth talking about. We're in the business of education. I think it's important that as educators, we pursue as high a level of education as we can. So I want to congratulate Ms. Lowe on her effort and attaining that master's degree. And I highly, highly encourage all of our staff, and I realize the effort that it takes. You're teaching all day, you're working all night to prepare for the classes you're going to teach the next day, and then you try to sneak in some classes so you can pick up a master's or perhaps even a doctorate. I think it's worth it. So I want to congratulate Ms. Lowe for her ability to do that, and I want to encourage all our staff to also look into doing that as well. Second thing is, I did notice that we had one resignation of a certified teacher. I did have a question about that person. Is that person a first year, or are they a first year with us and an experienced teacher?
This is the teacher, was the teacher's first year in our district.
How about in other districts? Were they in?
They have been in another district.
So
yes.
they bring experience in?
Yes.
Okay, that's why. Thank you.
I just had a couple questions also about specifically West Star additional compensation of $35,809. So one of the we've got a few questions. How much extra money does SPED teachers get when they have students above the caseload?
I'm not sure about that. I know Kay is here. She may be able to answer. I know that it's different. There are different stipends for different positions for different things. This West Star but situation is a one-off. There are times where we have one-offs. This West Star situation happens to be a one-off. We have advertised more, in my experience, than any other district I've ever been in to try to get a qualified teacher for this position. We have at least 10 that I can think of off the top of my head, different places that we've advertised. I've reached out to every West Valley HR director asking for them for outside of the box ideas or things that they have done to try. We've reached out to several different local universities, just really trying to find a candidate. We were down to one open position, and it happened to be this open position. And after lots of different conversations, we approached Mrs. Crawley with having to take that, not only just, it's not the number of kids, but it's the extra preparation for the extra grade levels as well. So there's more that goes into it than just what it may look like just on paper.
Okay. So, because I did some research too, and gifted teachers are actually classified under special ed also. And we have special ed students who haven't had their minutes met. Who are being, in my opinion, underserved disproportionately. And actually what it is it's actually $30 a day, $120 a week. That's what a special ed teacher gets for additional caseload for special needs children. But then you mentioned about looking for somebody qualified. So it's my understanding that in the cluster model, that the teachers in that model are actually highly qualified. But in the MAG model, Ms. Crowley isn't highly qualified in 7-8. Is that correct?
Technically, that is correct.
Okay. So were the parents let know that?
Every parent was contacted.
Every parent did the parents specifically know that they're potentially pulling their children from somebody who's highly qualified?
They do know. Every parent was personally contacted, not just a general email, but a personal phone call.
Okay, do we have that? Because that wasn't shared with the board. Because I was taken back when I first saw this, because I knew that there was some talks going on, but I don't know that all the meetings were complete. And we had a study session on it also.
One thing that West Star administration's done a really good job of is being able to talk to the parents as of late, especially individually by phone call. We certainly don't want to depersonalize the situation by just sending an email or what have you. So there's been individual phone meetings that have happened between the parents and administration.
And I guess what I really want to know is what method was used to come up with $35,000?
So there was a calculation because Miss Crawley is actually taking on, and 40% of her day she is taking on she's taking on a whole additional program with us not having a 7-8. And so we are actually saving money right now. And again, this is a temporary fix. If by Thanksgiving we find someone, this stops. It doesn't just continue forever and ever. Our outreach to fill this position has not stopped just because we have this plan right now. This is a plan to best serve the kids as we speak. This was the best plan. Also talking with parents. Again, parents were contacted personally, and they chose this. They chose to move their kids out of the cluster and come to this. This is what parents really advocated for. And we're trying to really be parents and students first. And so, yes, it was an additional, actually 2 blocks, so 4 period section. And she will not have any planning time, even though now she's teaching actually 5 different grade levels with absolutely no prep time. So she was also given addition for that as well.
But again, she volunteered for it, right?
She did not volunteer. We asked. She was asked to do this.
Oh, she was asked.
She was asked. She was asked to do this as a temporary situation.
Okay. When you said that we have to meet the needs, just to be clear, the district actually, by law, is meeting the needs of the gifted program. This is over and above. With the cluster model, the district, by law, is meeting the gifted, if you will, requirements that are required by law. So, how many additional children is it in the 7-8? Because that's all it is it's just 7-8. We're just adding.
Correct, it is 7-8, and right at this moment, I believe it's 7 students.
So 7 students. And what about the special needs children? How many special needs children don't have their minutes met?
Mr. Guare, I think that's off topic.
How many special needs children have not had their minutes met?
That would be a question that someone would have to get back to. That's
Caution you, I don't believe that's part of the
think
agenda
that
item
it's
here.
very
Mr.
interesting.
Aguirre,
I think
that
that
is
it's
off the
very-
topic. You are ordered to not ask more questions
That's
off
very
topic.
interesting that
Mr. Aguirre, your
we
time has
know
expired. Mr. Keenan,
that
do you have
we
anything?
know
I do.
what
Thank
exactly
you.
the gifted
Mr.
students need.
Aguirre,
But what we don't know is we don't know what our special needs children.
okay.
But
We're going to adjourn at this time and take a recess until you can come under order. The meeting is in recess. You are out of line and off topic. The time is 6:47. We are back in session. I would remind the board that we need to stay on topic with the agenda item. I would also warn the public that this is not the time for any comment. This is the time for the board to have conversation and make a decision. If you feel you need to make a comment, I would ask that you do it outside of the building. Move on.
Mr. President, can I have the floor for a moment?
Yes, give a second, get your volume up, Mr. Parks.
About as up as it's gonna get, so.
No, it's on our end. It's here. We just have to raise you up a little bit and give them time to do
Okay.
it.
All right.
Okay, we're good. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to remind the board that this is common practice. I know since I've been on the board, I do remember that we had a full-time position open for I believe a psychologist. And we actually filled that position. We did not fill that position, and we actually paid the 2 psychologists the split of the 2 salaries until we could find one. This is something we do frequently, and I don't want this to sound like it's a one-off deal. And on another issue here, Mr. President, I'd like to also pull the resignation of Ms. Garrett.
Okay, we'll note your request to pull the resignation, but we're still on the first topic of this for 5.3. So I will note that we'll pull the resignation, but I'm entertaining any further discussion on the first topic, which is the pay raise. And we'll go back and ask Board Member Bixler if you have any comments, or Board Member Kenyon if you have comments.
My question also is about the cost of adding this additional program. It does seem to be, I'm assuming that the conversation, this was not a demand by the teacher, right, for this compensation?
No, it was not a demand. Again, it was an ask because we had that opening and we have tried, I can't even tell you how many different things as far as advertisements, as far as reaching out to universities, reaching out to other districts, reaching out to services and companies that provide services, trying to find this teacher. And right now, it's saving us money because these teacher for this program, let's say make, and I'm just guesstimating, 60 to 70,000. We're not paying that right now for any position. So right now, we still have money that we could use for this. So it's not in a financial detriment right now.
Yeah, I understand that you heroic efforts trying to get this position filled, and it is a very unique position. To be honest, I've never tried to ever fill a position like this. The requirements as far as highly qualified and certification stuff, I don't know if I know anybody that has that kind of certification, but optically it just doesn't look good. Yeah, it seems out of place.
Your comments are noted. I would respectfully disagree with that. But again, everyone has an opinion. We have been, since I came on, I have been working on this. Since one of the first days I came on, I was told about this position, that it will be hard to fill, and I have hit the ground running from the beginning, making sure this is not our first effort. This was not our first, let's go to this and jump through pass by everything else by far. This was a temporary, and still is, I want to reiterate, this is temporary. If we find a teacher, if someone moves in because their husband was transferred tomorrow and applies, we will go through the interview process and hire them if they're qualified. That's the best case scenario that we want. This was not. So this was nothing that the teacher demanded. This is something in the end, after meeting with several different people, it was our ask.
I wish we had another solution. So,
All right, Board Member Kenyon.
First of all, I want to commend district administration for continuing the efforts of trying to fill this position, and also West Star administration for their role in trying to get this filled. And I really do want to thank Ms. Crowley. She's been in the district a long time, has a lot of experience. She's been splitting this, from my understanding, already. She's been, doing the coverage without being paid. And it isn't just a couple more kids. It's a whole nother program. So and like you said, it's a temporary stopgap, and we're hoping that we do get that position filled, and I bet she will as well, so she has her prep time back.
Right, absolutely.
But in the interest of serving our children, all of our children, not just select groups, I'm very, very happy with the district, with this plan, and I'm for this, so thank you.
Members, I might conclude a little bit with this and share my thoughts. I think it's important for the public and everyone else to know. First of all, we've done a lot for many programs. We have outsourced programs when we've had nobody internal, and that has also cost far more than it would perhaps cost to bring somebody in-house. When we run into situations, we do all the time with special ed, where we don't have the staff, we can look to contracted agencies who charge us far more than we would be paying staff in-house, but those are our only options. When we look to this, we don't really have, from my understanding from staff, an outside agency to look for on this. We do have a scope and sequence with the state that says we will provide these services. So we're doing that. Not only...
Correction. The district is meeting the needs by law with the cluster program. That is what the state of Arizona says districts will provide. We are doing that. You are incorrect in your statement, sir.
Thank you. I will proceed now. Moving along, although it's 9 kids, it's 2 grade levels. That turns out to be about 27 IGPs that this teacher has to write 3 times a year. I think that's more than any other teacher. The workload is intense. We constantly are looking to do better. We continue to search for this position. And I think it's important to bring up an event that took place August 13, 2018. Discussion and consideration to approve an extra duty stipend, mileage reimbursement, and additional paid leave for duties associated with the vacant position for school psychologist. Again, a very tough position to fill at times. Ms. Ryan stated, due to the inability to acquire an appropriately certified school psychologist to fill the current vacancy, current school psychologists will need to work outside of their contracted hours to maintain federal and state compliance of special education regulations. In-person time will be utilized for evaluations of students, observations for student assessment, intervention recommendations, and student behavioral assistance for teachers, guidance to school staff regarding implementation of assessment-guided interventions, attendance to federal and state mandated meetings, communication with parents, teachers, students, and administrators to review the incoming transferred students in special ed. The extra duty stipend recommendation is $30,000 for each school psychologist. The combined dollar figure is just less than a Step A psychologist salary of $61,000 previously approved by the governing board on June 18th, 2018. Ms. McNamara expressed her concerns for the psychologists and wanted to ensure they would not get exhausted with the extra duties. She also wanted to make certain both psychologists were ready for the extra tasks. Ms. Ryan reassured them that they were aware of their duties and willing to take their assistance for the students and the district. Mr. Jensen expressed his gratitude. A motion by Ms. McNamara and Mr. Aguirre was entered to approve the extra duty stipend, mileage reimbursements, and additional paid leave for duties associated with the vacant position of school psychologist, and was approved unanimously by the board. Ultimately, each psychologist got an extra $30,000 until the position was filled to assist special education.
Point of order, you need to be corrected again. That I do appreciate that you did bring that up from way back then, but just so happens I did my research also. And it turns out that's outside contracted hours. That is why the school psych is different. Not within school hours, but outside school hours. That is why.
We still spent the money, sir. That's the point.
That is why, to serve children.
Still spent
Serve
the
children
money.
outside the school hours.
Mr. Aguirre, please.
Make sure your facts are correct.
They're right
So
from the
that you're
minutes,
not
sir.
misstating
I'd like to call the question.
Okay, the question's been called. We do have to consideration also Mr. Parks to remove the approval of the resignation of Ganaya Garrett. That was your request, Mr. Parks. Do you want to make a motion?
So I make a motion to approve the item 5.3 with Mr. Park's addition and also with the correction or modification of Ms. Crowley to read $30 per day, $120 per week.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Motion is, can you please repeat it back, Ms. Camerata, so we have it correct?
The motion was to approve item 5.3 with the addition of Mr. Parks's pulling the resignation. And then also amending Ms. Crowley's compensation to $30 a day, $120 per week.
And to clarify, we're not approving the resignation, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So the motion was to approve 5.3 with the additional of pulling the resignation from Board Member Brian Parks, but amending by you, sir, Mr. Aguirre, Ms. Crowley's compensation of $30 a day with $100 per week,
120 per week.
or 120?
And it's to not, as I understand, it's to not approve the resignation, not just pull it, but not approve it.
With the additional of not approving the resignation.
Mr. Parks, is that, or I'm sorry, Mr. Aguirre, does that satisfy your motion?
Yes.
Okay. Board Member Bixler, does that still fall in line with your second?
That's what I understand it to be,
We have
yes.
concurrence. We have a motion, a second. It still stands. When I call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Nope.
Board Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Board Member Bixler?
Yes.
Board Member Kenyon?
No.
I'm also a no. We will show that failed 3 noes, 2 yeses.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve item 5.3 with the exception of the resignation.
I have a motion to approve 5.3 with the exception of the resignation of Mr., or I'm not sure if it's a Mr. or Mrs., my apologies, Ganaya Garrett. Everything else would remain the same.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. When I call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre?
No.
Board Member Bixler?
Nay.
Board Member Kenyon?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. We will show that approved 3 yes, 2 no.
And I'd like to explain my vote.
Please go ahead.
So just so the public knows, Ms. Crowley was a character witness according to Buckeye Court.
Excuse me,
records.
I don't think this is
And
appropriate.
that is
Sir,
why.
you
I
are
vote
out
This
of
is
line.
not appropriate.
Because I will not be part
Sorry.
of a quid pro
We're going.
quo.
You're
And
attacking
this will
other
be
board members,
sent
Mr. Aguirre. This
to
is
the
not
auditor.
We're
acceptable.
dismissed again until Mr. Aguirre can come under line. Please
Go
mute the
to the
microphones.
Attorney General's office. Buckeye Elementary did the
Mr.
same
Aguirre,
thing.
you are disrupting the meeting.
Turns out
Okay, it's now 7:04. We'll be back in session. Again, I would remind board members to stay on task with the agenda topics, and also this is the second admonishment to the public to remain quiet. If it happens again, we will ask our friends from law enforcement to remove folks from the building. Next up is item 5.4, which was pulled by Board Member Aguirre, and we'll let you proceed with your question, sir.
Question I had was for meal services. Is this the version that's gone to the state? Has the state looked at this? Yes. And they've approved this, so they've signed off on this also. Okay, I didn't know which version this was. If it was what we came up with, then we're sending it. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay, any other questions on 5.4? Okay, we'll take a motion.
Governor Tata, I move that we approve item 5.4.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item 5.4. Call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Board Member Bixler?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that approved. 5 yes, 0 no. Next up will be item 6.1, discussion approval of deferral of Liberty School road improvements. Dr. Monroe.
President Todd, members of the board, the Liberty School Road, which is this quarter-mile stretch between the Transportation Center and Liberty Elementary School, is currently maintained by the city of Buckeye. It used to be a county road until 2020 when the city of Buckeye took over. The city of Buckeye requires all their roadways to be up to their standards, which include lighting, drainage, landscaping, sidewalks. And in 2020, the district issued a letter that deferred the street improvements to a later time to be able to complete the renovation of Liberty Elementary School. The current price to meet the standards from the city of Buckeye would amount to approximately $2.3 million. At this time, the city of Buckeye will again allow Liberty to defer construction until the final phase of development for the district office complex. At the governing board meeting study session on August 28th, the governing board superintendent briefly discussed Liberty Road and the options available to take care of the $2.3 million cost to bring up to the city of Buckeye standards. Representatives from the city of Buckeye, DLR Group, and FCI Construction were also in attendance to answer questions. The pros and cons of each option were briefly presented during that time to the board, which the chart is there in the executive summary. It's the recommendation of administration in collaboration with the city of Buckeye, FCI Construction, and DLR Group to reissue another letter to the city that would allow investments in the Liberty Road to not be incurred until the last phase of construction and expanding the district complex at a date to be determined in the future. Regardless of future cost escalation and potential traffic congestion, pushing back investments into Liberty Road would allow time for decision-making throughout the build-out of the district complex phase, would also allow time for potential new development to occur, would also allow time to pass voter-approved bond measures, and also, more importantly, allow time to accrue more monies into adjacent ways fund without affecting the tax rate at this time, which Mrs. Strickler presented earlier. Once the roadway is up to the city of Buckeye standards, long-term maintenance, future expenditures would be the responsibility of the city of Buckeye. So administration recommends that the governing board approve the request to defer the Liberty School Road improvements until the final phase of the district complex and delegate the superintendent the authority to execute documents and take actions as may be necessary to obtain the deferral.
Okay, we also have representatives from FCI and DLR here if the board has questions. If there's anything you guys want to add to it. Okay, just giving you the chance.
Governor Ty, you guys have sat through a long meeting so far. I at least should ask you a question. Can you tell me, I understand and I agree with deferring this for a while, but aren't we also risking the costs going up over time?
Yes, definitely, but it allows us to acquire adjacent ways funds and now budget for it, as opposed to trying to find the funds now. And so that's something that Ms. Strickler has been looking at in terms of how we acquire those adjacent ways funds and what we're going to spend them on, and how we project those out over the cost of this project and future schools as well.
Anthony, you want to?
No, we definitely looked at different options. We analyzed the opportunities of privatizing the road versus deferring the road to a future date. Obviously, you're going to have inflationary costs that you have to constantly keep track of, and those are one of the numbers that are kind of hard to project, but a safe figure would be to analyze roughly 5% inflation cost year over year. So every year you kick the can down the road, it would be a 5% added cost. So that is a concern that you'd have to take in mind. However, there's pros and cons. I mean, you have a facility that needs to be built, and there's only a certain amount of dollars available to build it. So where do you allocate those funds? And then the opportunity of potentially privatizing the road, you would maintain it, essentially be your own driveway. There's far fewer costs associated with that, but it is an annual maintenance. It'd be just another item that you'd have to account for in your yearly budgets going forward. So it's in a good condition now, that road is. If you keep it in good condition, you likely would never have to do a full, really big, extensive renovation. You'd likely just have to do a slurry or a mill and overlay of that asphalt road every 15 years, and then just your annual every 3 year do a slurry seal. So there's pros and cons to each scenario. It just kind of comes up to what the board decides.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying about really we have very few other choices. So thank you.
David, I had a question. Why wasn't this information really brought to the board with this much detail when we were actually choosing the facility of where we should put the facility? Or would it have mattered?
We're required, to your point, I don't know that we had as much information because since then we've met with the city and they've outlined what that roadway is supposed to look like and what their expectation is. Secondly, the expectation that we do something with the road and the drainage and things associated with it was there regardless of what site we chose. And so even if we had used the Rainbow site, we still would have been required to come back and do something with this roadway.
Okay.
And so actually at that point, we had done a evaluation of the cost of the two sites, just to kind of see where it is. And it kind of, the cost kind of shook out relatively equal, and then it became a decision of where to really put the facility.
Okay. I was just curious if it would have mattered. So it sounds like it wouldn't have mattered. We would still had to have done this anyways. Okay.
Essentially, yes.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve item 6.1.
Okay, I have a motion to approve item 6.1. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. A motion, a second to approve 6.1, which is approval of deferral of Liberty School Road improvements. I call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Board Member Bixler?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that approved 5 yes, 0 no. Next up will be item 6.2, discussion approval of the interim superintendent criteria for performance pay.
President Todd, members of the board, Arizona State statutes provides for the superintendent performance pay to be granted up to 20% of the superintendent's base salary along a predetermined criteria. However, most school boards do not adopt the criteria in the statute. They usually adopt criteria that aligns with long-term strategic plans, to guide the efforts of the superintendent and staff. So what this motion is, or what this item is, what I brought to the board is the compensation criteria that was used actually is pretty much the same one that Dr. Schuff used in the past to evaluate whether a superintendent met his or her goals. It's, administration's recommendation to use an alternative procedure like we have in the past for assessing whether the performance pay goals were met, like we did in Dr. Schuff's. Just to remind the board, in the current interim superintendent contract, it is only 10% of the superintendent's base salary. So before the board approves any goals, the board also has to approve the criteria by which the goal attainment would be evaluated. So it's recommended that the governing board approve the use of an alternative procedure that's been presented there to you for the measures and calculation of the performance pay portion for the interim superintendent's compensation. This is in alignment with the interim superintendent's contract pursuant to ARS 15-341A39, and approve the use of the rubric criteria to calculate the 25% of the eligible performance compensation for each strategic plan focus area.
Questions from the board?
Mr. President, I really don't have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Give them a second. Try it now.
How about now? You hear me okay?
It's getting a little better, maybe a little higher.
Okay. I just want to kind of support what Dr. Monroe was saying. I was concerned in the past about the fact that we didn't have the right votes or the procedures in place, because there is, in fact, a statute that's very clear about how the performance compensation or the pay portion happens. I'm glad to see this, and I'm glad to see that the board is voting on this. And thanks again, Dr. Monroe, for this.
Any additional questions?
So what is the change from what we have now to what this is?
No change.
Oh,
Yeah,
procedural.
no change. What happens is the state says this is how a superintendent earns his performance pay, but I don't know of one governing board that adopts that model. And so the governing board adopts a different model to evaluate whether their goals were met. So what the motion is to see, are you guys okay to continue to adopt the model that you've used in the past with Dr. Schuff and then with the interim superintendent with me this year? I do think moving forward, there could be a further review on how to really maximize it. However, with the current interim superintendent, my recommendation would just be stay the course with what we've done. And it almost serves as a bridge to a new long-term plan or strategic plan in the future, which I would recommend to the board next year, that there's a new revitalized vision of what the priorities of the district would be. But for now, no change. I would just recommend to continue the course. And this is basically the same criteria that Dr. Schuff was under, with a few words that have been updated.
Dr. Monroe, if I can just ask for a clarification, just refresh my memory. ARS requires 20 or 25%?
A superintendent can be paid up to 20% of their base salary for their performance pay. In the current contract, it's 10%.
So I'm just reading in here, let me read this through, but it says for each strategic plan priority area, stewardship of resources and community connections, scoring an average of 2.75 or above, the interim superintendent receives 25% of performance pay. Okay, so so that's 25% of the 20?
So there's four, and I'm sorry, President Todd, I should probably be more clear. There's four sections. There's four priorities of our strategic plan, and you'll see that there's goals listed under each priority. So the board with Dr. Monroe can say, hey, Dr. Monroe, you didn't meet all of these, so you're not getting that 25%. You did do these two, so that's 50%. You didn't do this last one, so you would potentially get 50% of that amount. And so it breaks it down where the board can really take a hard look at each one to see if they were met or not. So, sorry, the devil's in the details. Probably wasn't as clear, but there's four priority sections that the goals are under. So that's the 25%.
I just want to make sure we had it clarified for whoever needed it. Okay. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve 6.2, approval of the interim superintendent criteria for performance pay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve 6.2, discussion, or actually it'll be the approval of the interim superintendent's criteria and performance pay. I call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Board Member Bixler?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that approved. 5 yes, 0 no. Next item on the agenda is 6.3, discussion approval of the interim superintendent and LESD fiscal year 23-24 performance goals.
President Todd, members of the board, attached are the 23 to 24 interim superintendent performance goals. A draft of these goals was reviewed at the governing board study session on August 28th. Since then, changes have occurred. There's been input from governing board members, which I appreciate during that study session and also individually. These are the final goals under the 4 priorities of the strategic plan. I do recommend during the 24-25 school year that a new and revised strategic plan is set or revitalized to guide the future short and long-term priorities of the district. These current goals act as a bridge, in a way, between the last year of the 2024 strategic plan under Dr. Schuff and what the new revitalized vision and plan may be moving forward for student and school success. Looking to make these goals as quantifiable and measurable as possible. However, some goals are almost multi-year and or things to initially identify and accomplish with an interim superintendent as priorities this school year that have been made manifest. Progress, significant progress, accomplishing these goals, meeting these goals is the ideal target. So I appreciate input from our cabinet. The rough draft of the goals was shared with our principals. If these were to be approved, they would be shared with our leaders throughout the organization. So as we presented in the past, we're all rowing in the same direction. I do appreciate some of the feedback from some of the board members on kind of refining these goals and making them more quantifiable. So administration recommends that the approval of the proposed performance goals of the interim superintendent.
Board members, any questions?
Yes, I do have one. And I'm sorry I can't find it in here quickly. There's a discussion of looking at metrics as far as, I believe it's student discipline, and comparing it through the lens of synergy. Can you tell me what that lens looks like? What is the criteria under synergy as far as what they're talking about?
Yes, let me find it here. Let me just make sure I know, and then I'll probably have Stephanie chime in. So synergy is where our student discipline is input. It's our tracking system, among other things. It's our database where we can track our synergy referrals. What was the specific act? What was the consequence? What was the communication like with parents? So that would be the primary way that we would measure the referrals, which obviously we want to have less referrals. We want to have kids in the classroom learning, so we want to be able to reduce those. So synergy would be the
Monroe, can I
way
interrupt
we'd be
you
able to track
just
that.
for 1 second? You're talking on priority 2. It's the second bullet point. If the rest of the board's looking to find it.
Yeah, and sorry about that. I got going there.
It's the second
Member
major
Bixler.
bullet point.
And Stephanie, did you want to chime in a little bit there too?
And specifically looking at violent or physical offenses. And so we wouldn't be looking at things like, not that they're not important, but really that's where the data and feedback from the survey from last year from the parents and teachers and administrators when it comes to discipline was really focused on those violent offenses. So not necessarily vandalism or cheating or ones like that, looking at ones like bullying, harassment, fighting, physical aggression. So that's really where it's a more narrow focus, not every single one that's in synergy, because there are some like minor theft. It's not those types, not that we're not saying that's important, but the feedback is overwhelmingly on those violent acts from last year, and that's what.
Yeah, I don't think I asked a very good question. My question is really about, do we get from synergy a description of this particular event so that they define what is a violent crime or what is something worth reporting? So we're using their definitions.
We have that, and it's also in all of our parent-student handbooks and as well as our staff handbooks, because the staff also, they're the ones that are making the decision when they're referring. If 2 students get into a fight, okay, what is this one? This is
a fight or an assault, right?
Right,
yeah.
or this definitely isn't cheating or stealing. This is clearly. And they sometimes a lot of times call their administrators. Okay, here's what happened. Can you help me code it? And so, as clear as we can, we're trying to make sure things are really coded correctly also, because that's going to give us the data on where we need to focus.
Yeah, is that something written down? Is it something we could have?
The state provides a definition for all of these offenses, so we don't create the narrative of like what does assault constitute. In my view, there's a definition provided, and then our administrators, they have to do their best to interpret what does that fit. And
Right.
so
I've been involved with a situation where reporting, we had to spend a lot of time talking about what was what, so that we are all reporting the same things.
Absolutely, because there's
that's why I'm wondering about the what information does Synergy give us? Does it? You're saying we're using their definitions for determination of what happened, and is that something written down that we can get?
Yeah, I think we can get those definitions. It might even be in our code of conduct. I'm not sure, but I think we have definitions.
I believe so, but I will double check and make sure.
We can,
I know
we can get
I've
those.
seen that there's a tiered discipline matrix there. I've seen that part of it, but I didn't
there are
pick
also
up on the definition.
Well, because we don't make up our own definitions.
Right,
We use
right.
the state definitions, and that's the only way we can get consistency. We don't say at Liberty, this is what we define. We depend on the state to provide those definitions, as does Synergy.
And we can get that.
Yeah, we'll get you guys the definitions of what is what's assault and what's vandalism.
What
and
they determine as assault.
you got it.
Any additional questions? I just have one, and it might be a typo or it might be not understanding. On priority 3, the first bullet point, and then the 1, 2, 3 looks like the fourth sub bullet point, teacher advisory committee input and stay survey data. Is stay an abbreviation? Should that be abbreviated, capitalized, or is that just the way it is?
Say that again. Where are you? I just
It's
want to
priority 3.
Okay.
First bullet point, fourth sub bullet down, teacher advisory committee input.
Oh,
They
Day
survey.
survey.
I don't know if Dr. Mano, if you want to say, or I can.
Could it, I guess, it doesn't, I guess it doesn't necessarily need to be capitalized, but as the board's aware, we doing stay surveys to our newly employees. Why do they stay with our district? So I guess
I
we
just
could
want to
not,
clarify. I didn't know if that stood for anything
we could
specifically.
not, yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. We're good.
There.
Not a typo. Great. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve item 6.3, approval of the interim superintendent and LESD fiscal year 23-24 performance goals.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. When I call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Board Member Bixler?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Will show that approved. 5 yes, 0 no. Next item on the agenda will be governing board comments on agenda topics or recommended agenda topic addition.
Mr. President, I'd like to request a special meeting to talk about possibly getting an AG investigation in for the executive session leaks and the other issues that are going on to undermine the board, the administration.
Okay. Can you repeat it one more time so we have it properly for the notes?
I'd like a special meeting to take a look at getting an AG office to investigate the confidential and leaks from executive session and the ongoing issues to undermine the administration and the board.
Okay. Anything else?
Governor Todd?
I'm
Yes.
just curious where my topic for the permanent superintendent search lies.
Yep, so I
Still
can-
waiting on an
I can
answer.
provide you an update. We originally had Mr. Ray scheduled for tonight. His younger brother passed away late last week, and he had to reschedule. We hope to have him at the next meeting.
Thank you.
It's just been coordinating. They've got quite a travel schedule, so
No
we were
worries.
working on it.
Yep. Appreciate it.
And Governor Todd, one of the things I'd like for us to look at, I know that we're talking a lot about school number 8. I'd like to talk about school number 9. I would like us to really take a hard look at a 7th, 8th grade center. I know that's a different kind of building and requires a different kind of reporting to the state, and so the construction is different. There's a lot of differences. That's why I'm talking about it now. I would like for us to begin the process to see what it would take and what is the possibility of our school number 9 being a 7th, 8th grade center.
I will absolutely support that. Thank you, Paul.
Do you see that maybe as a work session to begin with, to get more questions and so forth?
I think that's something we can talk about in the future. I don't think this is something that we need to deal with right now. I'm just laying it on the table because I don't want us to forget about it. And I don't want the timeline to pass and we don't have the opportunity.
Okay. Appreciate that. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Hearing none. We have those recorded. Our next board meeting scheduled for October 9th, October 30th, November 13th, November 27th, and December 11th to round out the year. Any requests for changes, modifications, or anything else that goes with those dates? Okay. We'll move on to item number 9, adjourn the meeting.
Mr. President, I move we adjourn.
Second?
Have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. When I call your name, specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Aye.
Board Member Aguirre? Board Member Bixler?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that approved 5 yes, 0 no. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.